Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more detailed videos. You know, when fans first heard whispers that General Hospital might be giving us another chance at JaBritt, the pairing between Jason Morgan and Britt Westbourne, the excitement was undeniable. It felt like one of those rare moments when the show could balance classic chemistry with something refreshingly different. Fans had waited, speculated, hoped, and tweeted endlessly. But somewhere along the way, what could have been a truly groundbreaking soap couple turned into something half-built, half-forgotten, and ultimately underdelivered. And that's what makes JaBritt such a frustrating story to revisit. Because General Hospital had something real here, something with emotional weight, unexpected warmth, and a spark that felt earned rather than forced. But the show didn't let it become what it should have been. The irony is that when Britt and Jason first shared scenes, hardly anyone thought they'd work. Jason was the stoic mob enforcer, a man defined by loyalty and silence, a character who rarely smiled and even more rarely opened up about his feelings. Britt, on the other hand, was messy, emotional, and self-aware in a way that made her relatable even when she was scheming. She wasn't a classic soap heroine. She was flawed, sharp-tongued, and funny. The kind of character who could call Jason out without fear, and that was exactly what made their chemistry so electric. When Britt and Jason's storyline began to take shape during the Cyrus Renaud storyline, something clicked. Jason's life was in chaos. He was wanted, hunted, and hiding. And it was Britt who helped him, who saw through his stoicism, and who offered compassion when almost no one else did. She saw the man behind the mob. She called him out for acting like a robot. She teased him, and, unexpectedly, she made him laugh. That rare human moment is what made fans fall in love with JaBritt. What's tragic is that General Hospital never leaned into what made their dynamic so powerful. Jason and Britt were two people from completely different worlds who somehow understood each other. Britt didn't need to be saved, and Jason didn't need to pretend. Their chemistry wasn't about rescuing or fixing. It was about connection, mutual respect, shared danger, and an undeniable pull that neither could explain. That's what soap couples are supposed to be built on. But instead of deepening that connection, GH treated it like a filler relationship. Something to keep Jason occupied until his next reunion with Sam or Carly or whoever the writers decided needed to orbit him next. The writing decisions around JaBritt felt rushed and inconsistent. One moment, they were partners on the run, navigating danger and growing closer with every scene. The next, it felt like the show was trying to quietly move on from them, as if the writers didn't realize they'd stumbled upon something genuinely special. Britt's vulnerability when she confessed her feelings for Jason was some of Kelly Thibault's best work. She showed this perfect mix of fear and hope, that trembling honesty that made the audience root for her. And Jason's response, subtle but heartfelt, was one of Steve Burton's most emotionally layered performances in years. You could see it in his eyes, in the way his voice softened. There was something real between them. And then nothing. It's as if the show lost its nerve. Instead of building on that emotional foundation, they separated them almost immediately. Jason was pushed back into mob storylines. Britt was thrown into hospital drama, and their emotional thread was left dangling in the air. Even when the show revisited them briefly, it felt like a tease, a reminder of what could have been. That's not just bad storytelling. That's a wasted opportunity. Because JaBritt wasn't just another fling or a plot device. It was a relationship that brought out sides of both characters we hadn't seen in years. Jason has always been written as emotionally guarded, but with Britt, there was a rare honesty. He didn't need to perform. He didn't need to protect her from the truth. She already knew who he was and accepted it. And for a man whose entire life has been about loyalty, guilt, and repression, that kind of acceptance was revolutionary. Britt wasn't judging him. She was understanding him. She saw him as more than a soldier or an enforcer. She saw the man who carried too much on his shoulders and offered him something lighter, laughter, comfort, even normalcy. And Britt? She found something she'd been searching for all along. Someone who didn't treat her like an afterthought, or a mistake, or a woman to be redeemed. Jason didn't need her to change. He didn't pity her or try to fix her. He just respected her. After years of being dismissed, mocked, and overshadowed, Britt finally found someone who saw her worth. That's what made the relationship feel different. It wasn't about drama or obligation. It was about two broken people finding peace in each other. So why didn't General Hospital follow through? Why did JaBritt get reduced to a few episodes of potential and then a quick exit? Part of it, of course, comes down to off-screen realities, actors leaving, contracts shifting, and storylines getting rewritten. But even beyond that, there's a deeper creative issue. The show didn't seem to trust its own storytelling. It's like they couldn't imagine Jason in a relationship that wasn't centered around his longtime love interests. And they couldn't imagine Britt being truly happy without some tragedy attached to it. That's the curse of legacy writing when a show becomes so dependent on its past that it forgets how to build a future. JaBritt could have been that future. They could have been a couple that redefined what romance looks like on General Hospital: mature, complex, emotionally grounded, and beautifully unexpected. Imagine if the show had explored Britt and Jason navigating life after Cyrus. Imagine Jason trying to balance his loyalty to Sunny with his feelings for Britt. Imagine Britt's struggle between her professional life at the hospital and her personal life tied to a man everyone warns her about. There were so many story possibilities that would have felt fresh. Instead, we got a fade-out, a half-hearted conclusion to what could have been a fan-favorite love story. Even after Jason's supposed death, Britt's grief was handled beautifully at first but then brushed aside. That moment where she breaks down, remembering him, was gut-wrenching. Kelly Thibault poured her heart into that performance. You could feel Britt's devastation, not just because she lost a man she loved, but because she lost the one person who truly saw her. But instead of honoring that grief and allowing it to evolve into a meaningful storyline, the show pushed Britt into a series of disconnected plots. It felt like the emotional continuity was gone. Fans remember how Britt talked about Jason, the way her voice softened, how her eyes glistened when she mentioned him. That was a real connection, the kind of emotional through-line that sticks with audiences. But the show moved on as if it never mattered. Even when Jason returned later, there wasn't any meaningful reckoning. There wasn't that cathartic conversation, or the closure that both characters deserved. The writers let JaBritt fade into memory, when they could have turned that unresolved tension into some of the most compelling drama GH has had in years. Because make no mistake, Britt Westbourne was one of the most dynamic female characters on General Hospital in the last decade. She was smart, witty, emotionally layered, and morally complex. She wasn't perfect, and that's exactly why fans loved her. Her relationship with Jason humanized her in a way that redemption arcs never could. And Jason, in turn, became more than the quiet, brooding hitman we've seen 1,000 times. With Britt, he had color, humor, even light. Together, they made each other better, and that's the hallmark of a great soap pairing. It's almost poetic, really. Two people who weren't supposed to work ended up having one of the most natural chemistries on the show. And yet, instead of building on that, GH reverted to safe choices, to familiar love triangles and predictable angst. The show has done this before, of course. It's a pattern. Find unexpected chemistry, then bury it because it doesn't fit the traditional narrative. But fans don't forget. They saw what Jason and Britt brought out in each other, and they still talk about it because it mattered. It was a pairing that reminded people that love stories on soaps don't always have to be about destiny. Sometimes they're about timing, growth, and mutual understanding. If you go back and rewatch their early scenes, the banter, the small smiles, the awkward moments of vulnerability, it's all there. The emotional foundation was already built. They didn't need grand gestures or over-the-top drama to make it work. It was quiet and grounded, which is rare for General Hospital. Britt and Jason found intimacy and honesty, and that's something the show rarely gives its characters anymore. So, when fans say JaBritt isn't what it should be, they're not just talking about missed romance. They're talking about missed storytelling. About the potential for growth, maturity, and a different kind of love story, one where both people had already lived through pain and were finally ready for peace. General Hospital had all the pieces to create something lasting, but it chose nostalgia over evolution. Even after Britt's death, the show could have kept her memory alive through Jason's guilt, reflection, or even dreams. But instead, it barely acknowledged the emotional weight of their bond. It's as if the writers didn't understand how deeply the audience connected with them. That kind of oversight doesn't just disappoint, it disconnects. Because fans invest in relationships that feel real, and when that investment isn't honored, it leaves a void. Imagine a version of General Hospital where Jason's grief over Britt shaped his choices, where he questioned the life he'd built, where he sought redemption not through violence but through love. That's what JaBritt could have given the show: emotional depth, not just action. A love story that reflected the cost of their lives and the beauty of finding someone who truly sees you. Instead, we're left with fragments, a few powerful scenes, a handful of unforgettable moments, and the lingering sense that something extraordinary was cut short. But even in that, there's something beautiful. Because sometimes, unfinished stories stick with us more than the ones that get tied up neatly. JaBritt might not have become what it should have been, but in a way, that's part of its legacy. It reminds fans that love stories don't have to last forever to matter. They just have to be real while they exist. And Jason and Britt were real. Their connection was brief, but it was honest. It showed us a side of both characters that we rarely got to see. And that's why fans still talk about them, still imagine what could have been, and still hope that maybe one day, General Hospital will remember that not all great love stories need to fit the mold. Some are defined by what almost was, by the sparks that burned bright, even if only for a moment. Because at the end of the day, JaBritt isn't just a missed pairing. It's a symbol of what soaps can do when they trust chemistry, character growth, and emotional honesty. It's proof that sometimes, the most unexpected love stories are the ones that stay with us the longest, precisely because they weren't perfect, but because they felt true. Come back to our channel for all your updates. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel.